Ever find yourself waiting endlessly at a big box pharmacy, feeling like just another number? At Tablet Pharmacy, they provide the personalized service you deserve. They offer free delivery and blister packaging options to make managing your medications easier than ever. Check their competitive prices online at tabletpharmacy.ca.
Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so right. Join the ride, it's gonna feel just right.
Welcome back to the Pulse Community Podcast. I'm Peter McCulley, and spring is definitely in the air here on mid-Vancouver Island. We're seeing all the signs from Nanaimo up through Parksville and Qualicum Beach, across the island to Port Alberni and Tofino, and on up to Comox, all the way to Campbell River. The island is waking up, and so are we.
Speak for yourself, Peter. I'm Dave Graham, and I am missing that 1 hour of sleep that we lost with the time change last weekend. So, yeah, I've been watching for signs of spring from indoors under a blanket. You know what? I think I bruised my circadian rhythm.
The clocks move forward, Dave. The sun is out later in the day. That's a good thing. And I don't think you can bruise your circadian rhythm.
Oh, no? Well, maybe it's dislocated then, or I'm out of sync. Oh, that's it. I'm unsynced. I did some research, I'm definitely in need of melatonin, or maybe it was caffeine. Maybe both.
We'll get you a nice melatonin mocha after. How's that sound? In the meantime, we have some exciting news for fans of live music with Parksville Beach Festival announcing their plans for a fantastic summer at Parksville's Community Park. We'll be speaking with Entertainment Director Lloyd Derry about the lineup, including an iconic Canadian rock band taking the stage.
Our opening concert is July 11th, and again, happy to have Van Rock Interiors back as our sponsor, featuring the highly acclaimed iconic rock band April Wine. They rose to international prominence through the 70s and 80s, and over the course of their remarkable career, they've released more than 20 albums, I believe, and sold something in the neighborhood of 20 million records. It's crazy.
April Wine. That is so cool. When I was a kid with my first stereo system, I had an April Wine 8-track tape. Now, for our younger listeners, an 8-track was a form of music storage before compact discs. Now, for our youngest listeners, a compact disc was a form of music storage before, whatever people using nowadays. I can't keep up.
April Wine have been a staple of Canadian rock for decades, and they still absolutely bring it live. Also in this episode, we bring you Peter, PD Ducommon, founder of Skull Skates, Canada's oldest skateboard brand. PD has plenty of stories to share after 5 decades of skateboarding, art, and culture. Their international headquarters is in Qualicum Beach.
We also at a certain point had a store in North Vancouver, a store in downtown Vancouver, of course the Nanaimo store, Qualicum Beach being our newest and what we're now referring to as Skull Skates headquarters. The whole planet has to come to Qualicum if they want to get to the real deal with Skull Skates.
The whole planet's coming? That's exciting. We may need to order some porta potties, and I'll see if I can round up some extra chairs.
On a future edition of the podcast, we'll chat with author Steve Burgess, who has written a book, Cheapskate in Lotus Land. Hopefully you'll have some financial wisdom to share with us.
Oh, I could use some of that financial wisdom. My dad was a banker and my ex-wife was a banker, and none of it rubbed off on me. So I say bring it on. Let's hear more about how to stretch one's dollars. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that buying lottery tickets is not a recommended component of a well-rounded retirement plan. So, I could use any and all tips for managing money. Thank you. Also, coming to the podcast, a chat with Erin Cully Drake. Erin is an author who can tell us the ups and downs of writing a book using artificial intelligence.
We'll also be learning about the Access Oceanside Association, a nonprofit working to raise awareness and break down barriers for residents and visitors with disabilities.
Our next contest is on right now. This is your chance to win a 4-day general admission pass for 2 for Sunfest. This year's Sunfest has another great lineup, including John Party, Tyler Hubbard, Riley Green, and Hannah McFarland.
To enter, visit our Facebook or Instagram pages, The Pulse Community, or head to our website, thepulsecommunity.ca, for details.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay & Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. Ian has received several awards recognizing his exceptional community commitment locally, as well as awards for outstanding performance and achievement from both RE/MAX International and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
There's exciting news for book lovers. Fireside Books in Parksville now has a second location in Port Alberni. The Bookworm. Used books are just $5 or less. The Bookworm on the corner of Redford and Anderson opens 7 days a week from 10 to 5. Building your personal library for less. Fireside Books at 464 Island Highway East in Parksville is a book dragon's dream come true. Browse their extensive collections 7 days a week. Both locations make growing your personal library easier than ever. New and used books and so much more. Order online at firesidebooks.ca and pick up at either location. Details available online. Ask about returning books for a book credit. Fireside Books and the Bookworm. 2 locations, one amazing adventure in browsing.
Hello, this is Patrick Corton of Piano Heist, and together with my colleague Nico Rhodes, we'd like to invite you to a very special event coming up on Vancouver Island. It's the big screen premiere of The 88th Key, a new Piano Heist short film created by our dear friend and filmmaker extraordinaire, Patrick Shorla. Starring us, Piano Heist, Patrick and Nico, as well as some exciting special guests. So, this is happening Sunday, March 29th in Nanaimo, 3 p.m. at the Port Theatre, and Monday, March 30th in Sydney at 11:45 a.m. at the Star Cinema. This unique event is part film screening, part artist talk and Q&A, and part Piano Heist concert. We hope to see you there.
This is the Pulse Community Podcast, updated weekly and available on Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. Plus, we're on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you know of a story we should be telling? Is there someone we should be talking to? Then speak to us. Leave a voice or text message through the contact link on our website, thepulsecommunity.ca.
We've added Vancouver Island webcam links to our website. You'll find links to all of our podcasts, events, and contests. I tell you, it's a one-stop resource for everything happening in our region.
One of the biggest events on the whole island sees well over 100,000 people through the gates each summer. It's known locally as BeachFest, and we're in for some fine entertainment. Here's Marilyn.
The folks at the Parksville Beach Festival Society have a busy summer planned. Joining us today in the green room to talk about April wine and concert and the lineup for BeachFest Rocks. We welcome Entertainment Director Lloyd Derry.
Lloyd, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate all the information, the excitement we're going to be hearing about, and it's so good to see you again.
You as well, Dave, and thanks very much for having me today.
Before we chat about this year's lineups for the musical events that will be happening in the Parksville Community Park and the fabulous outdoor theater, can we get a sense of how things went last summer?
Last summer was fantastic, Dave. It really was. We started off with Band Rock Interior's opening concert with Chilliwack, who were on their Farewell to Friends tour. And they proved beyond a doubt that they can still rock, even at that age. And we had about 2,900 people, that including our BeachFest sponsors. That's our sponsor appreciation night. So it was just a great way to kick off the season. And following that, of course, we had the Tim Hortons Freecom Summer Concert Series. Again, it was a big hit with crowds, and our crowds ranged between 800 and 1,200 people for each night of those 8 concerts, so we were happy with that. Bands from all various genres performed, so it gave our attendees a pretty good variety. After that was Mid-Island Co-op BeachFest Rocks, no longer Rock the Park, and there's a swear jar. I have to put 25 cents in every time I say BeachFest Rocks, but again, it was a big success. Attendance varied between 1,800 to 2,400 per day, depending on the day. As a twist last year, we added a couple of original bands with Prism and Powder Blues. And of course, we had all the great world-class tribute bands that people have come accustomed to seeing there. So it was, again, a great success, even though we were in competition with Nickelback down island a little bit on the Saturday, but it all turned out fine. Our closing concert last year was quite different. We had the Naden Band from the Royal Canadian Navy, and everybody was just blown away that day as they performed not only different genres of music, they had a very accomplished vocalist. I think most people were expecting military marching band stuff, and that just wasn't the case. And they ended with a very heartfelt tribute to those in attendance who had served in defense of our country. So it was a great day and fairly patriotic. It was just a great way to end last season.
As the entertainment director for BeachFest, Lloyd, how long have you been at this?
I think it's 10 or 11 years this year. I'm at the age now, Dave, where if I say something was 5 years ago and I look it up, it was 10. I don't know how that works, but that's how it goes.
I don't know how you keep doing it. I mean, your sense of how this has grown over the years must be pretty satisfied, I'd say. Job well done.
Thank you very much, Dave. And I think I remember saying to you last time we interviewed that it takes a village. And of course, we have a lot of help along the way. The theater popularity is just growing exponentially. A dream is one thing, having it come to fruition is another. We may have created a Frankenstein, I'm not sure.
And I don't know how you keep doing it year after year, but you find these iconic bands, and it was just made public recently, one of the big acts coming to town this summer, and I'll let you take it from there.
All right. Our opening concert is July 11th. And again, happy to have Van Rock Interiors back as our sponsor, featuring the highly acclaimed iconic rock band April Wine. They rose to international prominence through the 70s and 80s, and over the course of their remarkable career, they've released more than 20 albums, I believe, and sold something in the neighborhood of 20 million records. It's crazy. They earned a lasting place in Canadian music history. So they're going to perform such iconic songs as Roller and I Like to Rock, You Could Have Been a Lady, and of course their iconic power rock ballad, Just Between You and I, got them international recognition, and certainly on the North American stage for sure. They have 11 combined Juno nominations. They've been inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame and have Lifetime Achievement Awards. So really, it's a band you don't want to miss. They're still actively involved in touring across North America, and I recently heard that they were actually overseas for some shows, and they've got a big tour coming up. So we're lucky to get them with inside all that busyness that they're currently performing in. And as the opener that day, we have special guest Victoria's Tumblin' Dice will open the show with a selection of popular country and some rock hits, which they're not generally known for, but they have changed a little bit, so we're happy to have them. They'll be a great way to open that show. Our tickets are very reasonably priced, $59.95 for adults, $35 for students, and free for children under 12 when they're accompanied by an adult. We're just really excited about that one.
That's going to be a humdinger, some of us might say. Now, how about BeachFest Rocks? Can we touch on the lineup there?
Maybe I'll do this in order. So right after April Wine comes, the next weekend we start our Tim Hortons Summer Concert Series. So that's 8 free concerts. It'll be on July 17th, 18th, 24th, 25th, and 31st. And then on August 1st, 14th, and 15th. Very pleased to have our perennial sponsors, Tim Hortons, back on board for another year. We went to an online application form this year, Dave, for bands wanting to play for these 8 free concerts. We had over 60 bands that applied. Everybody wants to play here. You asked about BeachFest Rocks. Again, happy to have Mid-Island Co-op back as our title sponsor for that. Again, this year it'll be held from August 7th through 9th and features some new and some returning world-class tribute and also rock review bands. Friday's performance features a returning headliner, Parksville's very own Zachary Stevenson, who, apart from performing his Buddy Holly hits, which he's most famous for, he's going to do lots of other rock and roll favorites that day. Also on the Friday, we have A Night of Bowie, and we have Sticky Fingers, which is a Rolling Stones tribute. Saturday's lineup includes headliners Petty Fever, which is a multi-award-winning full-production tribute to Tom Petty, and the Heartbreakers. They're coming all the way up from Seattle. As well as we have Arrival, which is an ABBA tribute, Good Times Roll, a Cars tribute, Dreams, Fleetwood Mac tribute, and Backbeat, a band that does a 60 review out of Victoria. And I had a chance to hear them for the first time last summer, and whether they're doing Beatles or Beach Boys, they're just fantastic. The Sunday, the last day, BeachFest Rocks, is the headliners a band called Odyssey, who perform classic rock songs from the 70s, and they're comprised of some of the best musicians and vocalists from Vancouver. Other Sunday performers include The Rod Show, which is obviously a tribute to Rod Stewart, Classic Ronstadt, tribute to Linda Ronstadt, and March Hare, who we have had previously, and they can do everything, but this year about half their set they're going to focus on Roy Orbison, and I've been trying to get somebody to do Roy Orbison for years. He's an artist that's close to my heart. Just a stellar lineup again for BeachFest Rocks, and ticket prices for that day were $99 for an adult weekend pass, $50 for a student weekend pass, or if people prefer to come on daily passes, it's $55 for an adult and $35 for a youth pass. And again, children under 12 are free when accompanied by an adult. Now, we're still working on a Sunday concert for the last day, Sunday, August 16th, and we hope to feature some music for the younger set. Can I talk about something I can't talk about? As an added bonus this year, the Parksville Beach Festival Society, in collaboration with the Collective Entertainment and Event Group out of Victoria, are adding one more concert on Friday, August the 21st. And as I said, I can't tell you who yet, but what I can tell everyone is mark that date on your calendar, as it features one of Canada's most enduring and important bands that have received numerous Juno Awards and nominations, several CCMAs and other awards, and have about 4 million album sales. This will be the single biggest concert in Parksville's history. And this concert will be announced to the public on April the 7th.
Thank you for sharing even that much, Lloyd. That's very exciting. With just the list of talent coming to town and imagining all that wonderful music under the stars in the park by the beach. You're in paradise. What a wonderful event that brings to mind. Now, getting tickets. Let's get to the practicalities there.
First of all, David, I just wanted to talk a second, if I could, about ticket prices. During these days of escalating ticket prices for concerts, they're just going through the roof everywhere. And it's very important to our society to try and keep the ticket prices reasonable, in keeping with our family folks' values and events. And so I think what a lot of people don't realize is the cost to put on these concerts. It's not cheap when you consider the cost of the bands, the production of the concerts with state-of-the-art sound equipment and professional techs. Then you got to get washrooms and security and traffic control and first aid, in addition to all the ongoing operational costs. It does add up. And people do ask us why tickets are priced where they are and how come there isn't a seniors rate. And I just tell everybody that every rate's a seniors rate, because compared to other places, I truly believe that it is. And where else for that kind of money is sit in an idyllic setting such as our beautiful community park with world-class facility to listen to world-class entertainment? When you look around at other venues and concerts, it becomes apparent that we're pretty lucky here. You don't see that anywhere else. So as for purchasing tickets, again, we're happy to partner with the McMillan Arts Centre. They've done a spectacular job acting as our box office right from the very start when we started our ticketed events. And even better, Dave, the box office fees go right back into supporting arts and culture endeavors right in our community. So it's a win-win, and we are sure happy to partner with them. To get tickets for any of our ticketed events, you can visit McMillan Arts Centre box office, which is located at 133 McMillan Street, Tuesdays through Saturdays between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m., or you can purchase your tickets online at shop.mcmillanartscentre.com.
People can check out more where online?
All of our concerts, whether they're free or ticketed, will be on the BeachFest website. So it's parksvillebeachfest.ca is the website address. For the ticketed concerts, people can go online at the MAC website to check out lineups and artist bios. There's pictures on there. There's videos of the bands on there. Their website address, again, is shop.mcmillanartscentre.com.
Well, Lloyd, I want to thank you again for your time. And on a broader scale, thank you for being a key player in bringing such amazing talent to our wee little town by the sea for another summer. I look forward to seeing you there and then.
Thank you, Dave, and you as well. And I just want to thank you and Peter and the podcast for always giving us the opportunity to speak to the community. We certainly do appreciate everything you guys do on our behalf, so thank you.
I'm so excited to see April Wine again. And tonight is a wonderful time to fall in love with live music all over again. When I was growing up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, April Wine was the premier band. They were the Canada Day entertainment for many years, along with the fireworks at the Citadel in Halifax. And I'm telling you, when those rockets went up and the band launched into I Like to Rock, The whole world's going crazy. And it didn't feel just like a song title anymore. Their music is woven into the soundtrack of my life. And just between you and me, there's nothing quite like hearing those songs under an open sky. So, say hello to Parksville, April Wine. This is tremendous news, and we can't wait to see you roller right into town.
Tickets for April Wine go on sale March 16th, and BeachFest Rocks tickets will be available as of May the 1st. The Pulse community now includes Cindy Thompson of Parksville. Cindy hosts a Resilience Project, a podcast that encourages us to move from surviving to thriving. It's a powerful series and well worth your time.
Parksville City Councilors Joel Grenz and Sean Wood know how to make municipal politics accessible and interesting with their insider's look at local government in nonpartisan hacks.
Our Skookum Kids Stories feature Captain Dave and the crew of the Mellow Submarine and Peter and Gracie, the Eskimo dog. And our stories now offer coloring pages to go along with each new episode. In our latest story, Captain Dave and his first mate Larry the Lobster help a diver rescue a lost camera.
And our Radio Archaeology Classic Radio series features original episodes of Dragnet with Sergeant Joe Friday and Marshal Matt Dillon and Gunsmoke. In this week's edition of Gunsmoke, we'll be introduced to a very young Billy the Kid.
Billy was so young, they called him Billy the Child. You'll find all these podcasts and more at our website. Plus, we encourage you to sign up for our weekly newsletter at thepulsecommunity.ca.
Hi, this is Brian Den Hertog. I'm an acoustic singer-songwriter and guitarist, and one half of Raven and the Duke. I'm excited to let you all know that my partner, multi-instrumentalist Joe Russell, and I are on the road this spring to play some shows on Vancouver Island. Thursday, March the 26th, we'll be at Shar's Landing in Port Alberni, a place we've played in the past and are super excited to return to. Friday, April the 10th, we'll be at the Macmillan Arts Center in Parksville, a wonderful converted schoolhouse and gallery with a great vibe. Together, Jill and I, as Raven and the Duke, play an eclectic program of original songs, original instrumentals, and some original stories, and a whole lot of fun. Hope you can join us. Love to see you out at a show.
Ever find yourself waiting endlessly at a big box pharmacy, feeling like just another number? There's a better way. At Tablet Pharmacy, they provide the personalized service you deserve. Check their competitive prices online at tabletpharmacy.ca before you even leave home. They offer free delivery and blister packaging options to make managing your medications easier than ever. With convenient locations in Parksville, Qualicum Beach, and now open in Nanaimo near the Brick, Tablet Pharmacy has been serving Vancouver Island since 2019. Stop being just a prescription number. Experience the Tablet Pharmacy difference today. Visit them online and check their prices at tabletpharmacy.ca.
Our next guest has me wondering if maybe I might have just found my next passion, skateboarding.
Well, as long as you remain a spectator, you're probably okay.
Oh no, just watching won't be enough. I'm going to have to get on a board and just dive in. But it's okay, I'll start slowly. Maybe just sit on it for a while, rock back and forth, get a feel for it before I try anything involving balance or motion. We have an expert in our midst, actually. Here's Marilyn.
Peter Ducommon has been shaping skateboard culture since first stepping on a board in Nanaimo in 1974. As founder of Skull Skates, Canada's oldest skateboard brand and PD's hot shop, he's spent over 5 decades bridging skateboarding, snowboarding, art, and music. He recently relocated his international headquarters to Qualicum Beach, just up the road from where it all began.
Thanks for taking some time for us today, Peter. It's been a while since I bumped into you.
Yeah, nice to see you, Peter. Thanks for coming through.
We're here in the shop in Qualicum Beach, Skull Skates. And Peter, let's go back to where it all started. You jumped on a skateboard back in the 70s when you were living in Nanaimo. When you were that kid riding around on a skateboard, did you ever imagine that your life's work would be skateboards?
No clue at all. In fact, I could have never imagined that this is where it would have taken me, to a life as a skateboarder. It was my older brother, Rick, who had skated in the 60s on clay wheel boards. He and I built my first board together, and the parking lot is still there. It's a dentist office in Nanaimo where I first skateboarded.
Didn't your mother open a skateboard shop in Nanaimo at one point?
The way it started was that My brother had a t-shirt company. He'd go to California several times a year to get the latest iron-on t-shirt transfers, if anybody remembers those. What started happening was that I'd give him lists of skateboard stuff I wanted because you couldn't get the stuff in Canada. That turned into my friends giving us lists of stuff, and before we knew it, we were bringing things back for everybody and the crew that needed good skate stuff. The first shop really wasn't a shop. It was basically my bedroom in my parents' house in the 1970s. And then some years later, in the mid-'80s, my mom ended up opening a skateboard shop in downtown Nanaimo on Fitzwilliam Street. And it ended up being a pretty iconic spot for its time. The 80s was like a dynamic time in skateboarding.
Has anyone ever wandered into your shop here in Qualicum Beach and said, I used to pick up a set of wheels now and again from your mom?
Actually, I would say the first year or two that we were open, we had several people coming through reminiscing about my mom and saying that they'd got their first skateboard from her. My mom was an interesting lady. She had to be in her 70s at the time. Very sweet, just don't get on her bad side. That was the perfect combination to host a skate shop, I think, at the time.
And now Skull Skates is Canada's oldest skateboard brand.
Yeah, the shop started around 76 and the brand started in 1978. Here we are. We've just been doing it because we really don't know how to do anything else. So it's brought us this far along. We're still making skateboards and related stuff. We've made a lot of neat things over the years, including snowboards and bicycles and skimboards and anything that kind of catches our interest. And the shop somehow makes its way into the product line.
I did want to ask you about that. You alluded to it. Skull Skates helped pioneer the snowboard industry as well.
I think what happened when we started, we didn't think that Skull Skates was such a great name for a snowboard. I don't know why, but we came up with the name Crystal Ocean. Crystal Ocean Snowboards by Skull Skates. We got in pretty early. I think 83 was the first year that we put boards out. I think I probably stepped on a snowboard around 1979. The industry of snowboarding really didn't get fully established till late 80s, early 90s. And I think by 95, we were out of it. It became a little bit, for my personal taste, a little bit too mainstream by that point.
And Skull Skates has left a lasting impression on the market with pioneering the Hammerhead.
The Hammerhead skateboard deck came out in the 80s. It was not my design. It was designed by professional skateboarder Christian Hosoi. As the name denotes, it was influenced by what a hammerhead shark looks like. So if you can imagine the shape of a regular skateboard, it looks like a scaled down surfboard. And this one had these sort of hammerhead bumps on the nose. Christian was a dynamic and very talented skater during that era. He came up with the shape. His father, Ivan, came up with the graphic. And it was a hit. It was most definitely the board that we produced in the largest quantities.
These boards come in all shapes and sizes. You were showing me recycled water ski.
Longboarding's been with us since the start of skateboarding, but it became a thing unto its own somewhere around the mid-90s, and it really caught fire, I want to say up until about 2015. People still do it, but that was the sort of explosive time of longboarding. But the original longboards actually came about in the 60s, and people would, at that time, take an old water ski, pull the bindings off, put on trucks and wheels, usually clay wheels of that era, and that became the very first longboards.
I wanted to go back to something that you were mentioning about your brother Rick, who had a career as a stand-up comedian. He was, I believe, one of Canada's first late-night hosts of television, and then he was in a bunch of movies, one of them being with Tom Hanks. Two questions, I guess. One, in the Hollywood era, did you open a shop in California? And did Skull Skates ever work its way into a movie or a show?
Rick, I would say, was a very talented stand-up comic, also a writer and an actor. I would say his following to this day was a cult following. He was like they would call a comedian's comedian. We ended up for a time with a retail store on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood, which was the place to have a shop in the 80s. It was a place where a lot of people went, and it was a cool place to be. At the same time, we had a warehouse and distribution outlet that was based in Van Nuys, which is in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. The logo has always crept its way into, I would say, things through the side door. Our first logo appeared in the Skateboarder magazine in 1979. Another banner at this contest in Marina del Rey was torn down, and our banner was put up in a clandestine operation. Rick was in a movie called The Burbs with Tom Hanks, which I don't know how well it did in the theaters, but I know that over time it definitely, and to this day, gained a real cult following. In that one, there was a skateboard brand out of California that had paid a substantial amount of money and gave a lot of product to try and get placement in the movie. Well, Rick sort of had his own technique, which was to go to one of the actors and give him a little bit of cash and a T-shirt and say, "Hey, man, why don't you wear this?" Actually, I remember being in the theater at the screening in Nanaimo, and when the character comes out, gee, I think the logo looks like it's about 6 feet tall on the screen, so he did a good one there.
Let's talk locations for a minute, Peter. PD's Hot Shop, Vancouver. You had the shop in Nanaimo. You're now in Qualicum Beach. At one point, you're in California, and there's a shop in Japan.
Yeah, Gifu, Japan, which is central Japan, just south of Nagoya. That shop opened in 1994 by a good friend of mine, Satoshi Ono. He's had good success based on what we consider good success. We've had this idea with Skull Skates and with the shops that we intentionally throttle it a bit. We don't want to blow it out and make it too big and too crazy. And so our guy in Japan really understands that. He's got a brick and mortar location as well as does online throughout Japan. And I believe he services probably somewhere around a dozen or 15 skate shops in Japan. We also at a certain point had a store in North Vancouver, a store in downtown Vancouver, of course the Nanaimo store, Qualicum Beach being our newest and what we're now referring to as Skull Skates headquarters.
International headquarters.
Indeed, yes. The whole planet has to come to Qualicum if they want to get to the real deal with Skull Skates.
You announced recently that you were moving your international headquarters to Qualicum Beach. Tell us about that.
Well, the original plan was to keep Vancouver going, and we did that for a period of about 4 years. I love Vancouver, like really love Vancouver. I spent about 45 years there, which is how long our shop has been there. I know Vancouver in a very intimate way because I go around primarily by bus, bicycle, skateboard, and walking. So you get to know a city in a very detailed way when that's how you experience it. So it wasn't easy for me to get out of Vancouver. I would say that we're very hands-on in the way that we produce product and run our store. For me, I was finding very difficult to keep that focus of attention on the two, what we were considering really two kind of primary locations, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that was the idea. The other thing is that Vancouver, as great as a city as I still think it is, it's become more difficult to do business based on overhead, based on the difficulty of people getting around the city. We used to always be in a kind of out-of-the-way location to get affordable rent and count on people making their way to us. And we found in the last 10 to 15 years, that's just become much more difficult for people to do.
So now you're running a shop, a distribution center, and a popular culture museum, which we'll chat about, all under one roof in a small town. How do the people of Qualicum Beach react when they walk through the doors of what you call Castle Grayskull for the first time? And who comes through the doors? You have everything here. You have boards, hats, clothing, you name it.
It's been an interesting ride so far. I mean, we weren't exactly sure. Just logistically, we're opening a skateboard shop in a retirement community. But it turns out people have been very welcoming. And I think for myself, I was not fully considering just how ingrained skateboarding is in the culture. If you're fortunate enough to retire in a place like Qualicum Beach, it probably means you've lived a pretty interesting and fulfilling life. And that includes things like surf and skate and snowboard culture and stuff that we traditionally, I think in the past, considered it to be a little bit stigmatized and a little bit outcast, which I think there's still an element of that in skateboarding. But really, if a lot of these retired individuals, if they don't skate, they have kids and grandkids that skate, so they're aware of it. And people, I would say, have been very welcoming, which has been a nice surprise for us.
Let's talk about your website for a moment, Peter. You dive into the popular culture of skateboarding, and your website has what really is an online museum of skateboarding history from the 20s right up through to the 90s. What drove you to preserve that history when your competitors in the industry are just looking for the next best thing?
Because I think at a certain point in the 90s, I had this realization, and people around me that were like-minded had this realization that we had built up enough of a culture and a history that there was a story there, and that we wanted to tell that story and share it with people. And the way that we approached it was through the artifacts, using the boards themselves and the gear. And that's where all the stories come from, is how the evolution of the equipment has completely been conjoined with the evolution of how people skate. And in fact, how the Pop Culture Museum came into being here in Qualicum was that we had been given a favorable review when our online museum went up back in, I want to say, mid to late 90s by a Vancouver newspaper called the Georgia Straight. It caught the attention of the Vancouver Museum. Vancouver Museum contacted us and we did an installation there. Highly successful. It was scheduled for 6 months, got stretched to 12 months, got stretched to 18 months. Eventually they wanted to take it on the road to 7 other cities, which we declined in the end. But it really opened up our eyes to the fact that people are interested, even if they don't skate, they're interested in the culture. On the heels of the success of that Vancouver show, we started thinking, man, we need to do a museum, like a permanent location where we can not only skateboarding, but all this other neat stuff that comes off of skateboarding, which could be anything from unusual bicycles to music, art, skimboarding, snowboarding. There's so many things that kind of spin off of skateboarding. When we started to look around Vancouver, we realized pretty quick we weren't going to be able to afford a space in Vancouver to do that. And that started about a 15-year search up and down the Sunshine Coast and the island to try and find a space to house this museum. It just turned out that the space was in Qualicum.
You've had some really interesting exhibitions, I know, because I've been here for them all. Skateboards, snowboards, bicycles, popular culture and art.
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a good time staging them, and it's been neat to see how people respond to the various exhibits. Because of the timing now with our shifting of our international headquarters to QB, we're actually just now in the process of planning a Skull Skates retrospective show. So the next exhibit is going to really delve into the starting point and the evolution of this brand particular and how it's existed within skateboarding and beyond.
And that will make a great coffee table book.
There was actually a coffee table books for the Skateboarding Vancouver show that happened at the museum there. So yeah, might be a good idea. Thanks for the suggestion, Pete.
How much stuff do you have, Peter, and where do you keep it all? Bicycles, snowboards, the whole thing.
I think if I readily admitted to that, I'd end up on one of those hoarder shows. And I will say that before we got this opportunity to really start sharing this stuff with people, I essentially was a hoarder, and seemingly overnight I turned into a curator, and curator just sounds so much more fancy and legitimate than hoarder. I don't know why, it just does.
And it might be tax deductible.
Possibly.
After all this time in the skateboard business, what do you know now that you'd like the next generation of skateboarders and small business builders to carry forward?
This is something that people always get a little bit of a chuckle over, but we've never had a business plan other than to get up every day and make cool things happen. I would say that in a sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, we like to say that dedication is our gimmick. It mirrors the act of skateboarding. There's no sort of halfway to ride a skateboard. You're either in or you're not. And so I would say that looking back, no, there's nothing that we would sort of imagine doing differently other than my advice to any sort of small business owner or skateboarder for that matter is you're either in or you're out. If you're not ready to give 100% plus, no big deal. Just find something else to do.
Peter Ducommon, 50 years of skateboarding, and he ended up right here in Qualicum Beach. You know, Peter, I've been thinking.
Not again.
I've been inspired by all this talk, and I have a feeling that if I work at it, I bet I could start doing some skateboard tricks in just a few weeks.
I don't know, Dave. I've seen you fall off a stationary bike.
I'm going to need padding, lots of padding.
Hey, folks, don't forget to enter our latest contest. We're offering a 4-day Sunfest pass for 2. Details at thepulsecommunity.ca.
As soon as I get my circadian rhythm repaired or replaced, whatever they do to fix these things, I'm going to get a skateboard. Do you happen to know if boards come with outriggers?
I don't think so, Dave.
Maintaining balance has never been one of my strong suits, so if I could have my body completely encased in, I don't know, maybe a foot of padding, and then get a skateboard with a seat on it and training wheels, oh, that'd be great.
Maybe we should get you a tricycle.
Me on a tricycle? Oh, I don't know. That might look funny.
Here come Peter, here comes Dave. Oh, listen. Bringing stories, making waves. no mistake. Spinning tales in the podcast cave. So sweet. Laughs and insights everywhere. What a treat. Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so alright. Join the ride, it's gonna feel just right.